Good evening. This 81st meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council is now called to order. Members of the council, due to us being in a virtual meeting, please note that I will recognize you by saying you have the floor. Once I recognize you, please state your name and then begin talking. Tonight's invocation will be delivered by Pastor Terry Moore. Following that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
And I'd first like to say to the Honorable President and distinguished members of the Baltimore City Council that I thank you for this opportunity, this privilege to bring the invocation on today, and to thank you for your love and your dedicated attention that you have paid to the most pressing matters facing the city of Baltimore at this time. Now, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Master and ruler who governs the world that you created and all that dwells therein, we look to you on this evening and invoke your power, your protection, your presence, and your peace. May your sweet spirit fill the very atmosphere of this online meeting to bring unity and divine wisdom, knowledge, and guidance. Let each one work collectively to make decisions and enact policy to ensure the public health and safety of the citizens of our fair city. O Lord of hosts, we ask that you dispatch your warring and ministering angels to keep watch and to bring comfort to all who are suffering tonight. May your hand hold back the darkness and the spread of this pernicious invader we know as COVID-19 as we cry mercy, and may you graciously bring this pandemic to an end. Let not another life be lost, O God, and may this night mark the beginning of a total turnaround for our city in every area and in every aspect, where we have declared that the city of Baltimore is a holy city set aside for renewal, revival, restoration, and reformation. We pray these things in the name of the one who is the resurrection and the life. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Pastor. Thank you for joining us. And colleagues, as we move forward and as we enter another week of our new reality, I also want us to take a moment to thank all of our frontline workers who have risked their lives to maintain a sense of normalcy for us during this time. These workers include, but are not limited to, our healthcare workers, grocery store employees, restaurant and food service delivery workers, our postal workers, of course, our fire, our police, our trash visuals and solid waste, all of these individuals we have to uplift at this time, who are risking themselves even more than normal to help us have some sense of normalcy in our lives. We must continue to maneuver through this new reality with these people in mind so that we are keeping them safe and healthy and thanking them at every turn. Showcase Baltimore. Thank you. Now, tonight's Showcase Baltimore presenter will be Director Reginald Moore of the Baltimore City Department of Recreation and Parks. He will be providing an update on the new virtual recreation center. Director Moore.
Hey, Council President, thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for having me here tonight. We're truly excited about our virtual recreation page. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to support our communities even during this most challenging time. I think Kaline has a brief video that we're going to share, and then I'll come back and highlight after the video more so about what virtual recreation is all about. Kaline, are you able to?
Yes, Dominic will bring it up shortly.
Okay. While we're waiting on, okay, there we go. not sure what happened with the volume, but basically what this promo that's on Instagram, Twitter is that our virtual recreation center is an array of activities to include such programs as at-home workshops, workouts, arts and nature programs, STEM lessons, outdoor activities, gardening and bird watching, and much more. Also, it features such things as on the site now as Explore Baltimore in conjunction with our partners, the Pratt Library, some of our museums, as well as the zoo. It's an opportunity for people to have virtual experiences around Baltimore and what's in different museums. Also, there's opportunities for our kids, our families, our teens, our seniors, but also there's programming opportunities for our youth and adults in our therapeutic rec community. One of the things that we want to continue to stress is that even though during these times where we're asking people to stay at home and stay safe, we want to make sure there's opportunities that our kids will have plans, activities that they can continue to experience on a daily basis. Also, I would like to share with you all is that in conjunction with our partners at the Maryland Book Bank, they're delivering over 8,000 books to our office tomorrow for us to disperse at our different rec centers. We have currently 42 rec centers that we're providing meals. So starting Thursday, not only will a kid be able to receive their meals, their daily meals, they also will be able to receive a free book. So we're truly thankful for that partnership. And then more importantly, also, I want to stress the importance and my thanks to our team, our staff, for finding ways that we can continue to engage our community, because we're really concerned about making sure that our community stays safe and that they're healthy during this time. So please, I encourage everyone to go out and visit our site, bcrp.baltimorecity.gov/virtual-rec, for all these different activities that you're seeing now that's been strolled on the screen. So we're really excited about it, and thank you for giving me a chance to come in and highlight this feature, this new initiative that we're offering at Baltimore City Rec Park.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Thank you. Roll call. The clerk will now call the rolls on the members.
President Scott,
Present.
Councilman Cohen,
Present.
Councilwoman McCray,
Present.
Councilman Dorsey,
Present.
Councilman Henry,
Present.
Councilman Schleifer,
Present.
Vice President Middleton,
Present.
Councilman Pinkett,
Present.
Councilman Burnett,
Present.
Councilman Bullock,
Present.
Councilman Reisinger, Councilman Reisinger, Councilman Costello,
Present.
Councilman Stokes,
Present.
Councilwoman Sneed,
Present.
Councilwoman Clark. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I know that Councilwoman Clark is there. I can see her, and I know that Councilman Reisinger is on the line as well. We will now proceed with the adoption of the journal.
Mr. President, the journal for the April 6th, 2020 proceedings are on the council members' desks and has been forwarded to their inboxes.
Thank you. Without objection, the journal will be adopted. The journal was adopted. Executive nomination.
EA 20-0266, Eric Stevenson, Member, Planning Commission, District 9.
This has been assigned to the Executive Appointments Committee. Bills to be introduced.
City Council Bill 20-0514, bond issue, affordable housing loan, $12 million, for the purpose of authorizing the mayor and City Council of Baltimore pursuant to General Assembly House Resolution 1 and Senate Resolution 1 of 2020, approved by the members of the Maryland General Assembly representing Baltimore City, to create a debt and to issue and sell its certificates of indebtedness as evidence thereof, and proceeds not exceeding $12 million from the sale of such certificates of indebtedness to be used for the cost of insurance of issuance, including the expense of engraving, printing, advertising, attorney's fees, and all other incidental expenses connected therewith, and the remainder of such proceeds to be used for or in connection with planning, developing, executing, and making operative the affordable housing program of the mayor and city council of Baltimore, including but not limited to the acquisition by purchase, lease, condemnation, or any other legal means of land or property, or any right, interest, franchise, easement, or privilege therein in the city of Baltimore, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred in connection with or incidental to the acquisition and management of the land or property, including any and all rights of interest therein, herein before mentioned, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with relocating and moving persons or other legal entities displaced by the acquisition of the land or property, or any of the rights or interests therein, herein before mentioned, in the city of Baltimore, the development or redevelopment, including but not limited to the comprehensive renovation or rehabilitation of any land or property or any rights or interests therein, herein before mentioned in the city of Baltimore, and the disposition of the land and property for such purposes, costs related to the rehabilitation and new construction of and operation of rental and home ownership developments, such as costs to include but not limited to the relocation assistance, rental payment and home purchase assistance, housing counseling, and project financing comprised of loans, including forgivable or fully amortized, or grants or other related activities, and buyer education, assistance and activities to support the orderly and sustainable planning, preservation, rehabilitation, and development of economically diverse housing in city neighborhoods, support for affordable housing trust fund, the elimination of unhealthful, unsanitary, and unsafe conditions, lessening density, eliminating obsolete or other uses detrimental to the public welfare, or otherwise removing or preventing the spread of blight or deterioration in the city of Baltimore, the demolition, removal, relocation, renovation, or alteration of land, buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services and other structures or improvements, and for the construction, reconstruction, installation, relocation, or repair of buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services and other structures and improvements, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with doing any or all of the things herein mentioned, including but not limited to the costs and expenses of securing administrative, appraisal, economic analysis, engineering, planning, designing, architectural, surveying, and other professional services, and doing any and all things necessary, proper, or expedient in connection with or pertaining to any or all of the matters or things herein before mentioned, authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds, conferring and imposing upon the Board of Finance of Baltimore City certain powers and duties, authorizing submission of this ordinance to the legal voters of the city of Baltimore for their approval or disapproval at the general election to be held in Baltimore City on Tuesday, the 3rd of November, 2020, and providing generally for the issuance and sale of such certificates of indebtedness in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, and by the municipal agency designated in the annual ordinance of estimates of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. Sponsor, President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0515, bond issue, school loan, $38 million for the purpose of authorizing the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore pursuant to General Assembly House Resolution 2 and Senate Resolution 2 of 2020, approved by the members of the Maryland General Assembly representing Baltimore City, to create a debt and to issue and sell at any time or from time to time and in one or more series its certificates of indebtedness as evidence thereof, and the proceeds not exceeding $38 million from the sale of such certificates of indebtedness to be used for the cost of issuance, including the expense of engraving, printing, advertising, attorney's fees, and all other incidental expenses connected therewith, and the remainder of such proceeds shall be used for the acquisition by purchase, lease, condemnation, or any other legal means of land or property or any rights therein in the city of Baltimore, and demolishing, constructing, and erecting on said land or property or on any land or property now or hereafter owned by the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners and or the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, new school buildings, athletic and other auxiliary facilities, including community health and recreation facilities, and for additions and improvements to or the modernization of reconstruction of, including the inspection, removal, encapsulation, management, containment, and abatement of asbestos from existing facilities, and for equipment for any and all new or existing facilities, and for existing facilities authorized to be constructed, erected, added, improved, modernized, and reconstructed by the provisions hereof, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with doing any or all of the things herein mentioned, including but not limited to the costs and expenses of securing administrative appraisal, economic analysis, engineering, planning, designing, architectural surveying, and other professional services, including without limitation services related to planning for future projects of the same general character, which may be constructed out of future loans, and for doing any and all things necessary, proper, or expedient in connection with or pertaining to any or all of the matters or things herein before mentioned, authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds, conferring certain powers upon the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners, imposing certain conditions in connection with the expenditure on the proceeds derived from the sale or said certificates of indebtedness, conferring and imposing upon the Board of Finance of Baltimore City certain powers and duties, authorizing the submission of this ordinance to the legal voters of the city of Baltimore for their approval or disapproval at the election to be held on Tuesday, the 3rd day of November 2020, and providing for the expenditure of the proceeds of sale of said certificates of indebtedness in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore and by the municipal agency designated in the annual ordinance of estimates of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0516, bond issue, Community and Economic Development Loan, $38 million for the purpose of authorizing the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore pursuant to General Assembly House Resolution 3 and Senate Resolution 3 of 2020, approved by the members of the Maryland General Assembly representing Baltimore City, to create a debt and to issue and sell its certificates of indebtedness as evidence thereof, and proceeds not exceeding $38 million from the sale of such certificates of indebtedness to be used for the cost of issuance, including the expense of engraving, printing, advertising, attorney's fees, and all other incidental expenses connected therewith, and the remainder of such proceeds to be used for or in connection with planning, developing, executing, and making operative the community, commercial, and industrial economic development programs of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore, including but not limited to the acquisition by purchase, lease, condemnation, or any other legal means of land or property or any right, interest, franchise, easement, or privilege therein in the city of Baltimore, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred in connection with or incidental to the acquisition and management of said land or property, including any and all rights or interests therein herein before mentioned, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with relocating and moving persons or other legal entities displaced by the acquisition of said land or property, or any of the rights or interests therein herein before mentioned. The development or redevelopment, including but not limited to the comprehensive renovation or rehabilitation of any land or property or any rights or interests therein herein before mentioned in the city of Baltimore, and the disposition of land and property for such purposes, the elimination of unhealthful, unsanitary, or unsafe conditions, lessening density, eliminating obsolete or other uses detrimental to the public welfare, or otherwise removing or preventing the spread of blight or deterioration in the city of Baltimore, building from strength, stabilizing middle neighborhoods, strengthening neighborhood retail corridors, the creation of healthy, sanitary, and safe and green conditions in the city of Baltimore, the demolition, removal, relocation, renovation, or alteration of land, buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services, and other structures or improvements, and for the construction, reconstruction, installation, relocation, or repair of buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services, and other structures or improvements, making loans and grants to various projects and programs related to growing businesses in the city, attracting and retaining jobs, providing home ownership incentives and home repair assistance, making loans and grants to various projects and programs related to improving the cultural life and promotion of tourism in Baltimore City, and the lending or granting of funds to any person or other legal entity to be used for or in connection with the rehabilitation, renovation, redevelopment, improvement, or construction of buildings and structures to be used or occupied for residential or commercial purposes, and the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with doing any or all of the things herein mentioned, including but not limited to the costs and expenses of securing administrative, appraisal, economic analysis, engineering, planning, designing, architectural, surveying, and other professional services, and for doing any and all things necessary, proper, or expedient in connection with or pertaining to any and all of the matters or things herein before mentioned. All such land or property shall be acquired, developed, redeveloped, renovated, rehabilitated, altered, improved, held, or disposed of as provided by law, authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds, conferring and imposing upon the Board of Finance of Baltimore City certain powers and duties, authorizing the submission of this ordinance to the legal voters of City of Baltimore for their approval or disapproval at the general election to be held in Baltimore City on Tuesday, the 3rd day of November, 2020, and providing for the expenditure of the proceeds of sale of said certificates of indebtedness in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore and by the municipal agency designated in the annual ordinance of estimates for the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration, co-signed by Vice President Middleton.
This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0517, bond issuance, public infrastructure loan, $72 million for the purpose of authorizing the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore pursuant to General Assembly House Resolution 4 and Senate Resolution 4 of 2020, approved by the members of the Maryland General Assembly representing Baltimore City to create a debt and to issue and sell its certificates of indebtedness as evidence thereof and proceeds not exceeding $72 million from the sale of such certificates of indebtedness to be used for the cost of issuance, including the expense of engraving, printing, advertising, attorney's fees, and all other incidental expenses connected therewith, for the development of the public infrastructure owned and controlled by the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore and the Enoch Pratt Free Library, and the construction and development of streets, bridges, courthouses, city office buildings, police stations, fire stations, solid waste facilities, information technology, public park and recreational and related land, property, buildings, structures, and facilities, including but not limited to the acquisition by purchase, lease, condemnation, or any other legal means of land or property or any rights therein in the city of Baltimore, and constructing and erecting on said land or property or on any land or property new buildings, structures, and auxiliary facilities, and for the renovation, alteration, construction, reconstruction, installation, improvement, and repair of existing infrastructure, buildings, structures, or facilities to be or now being used for in connection with the operations, functions, and activities of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore and the Enoch Pratt Free Library. The demolition, removal, relocation, renovation, or alteration of land, buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services, and other structures or improvements, and for the construction, reconstruction, installation, relocation, and repair of buildings, streets, highways, alleys, utilities, or services, including information technology infrastructure and other structures or improvements for the acquisition and installation of trees or for tree planting programs, and for the acquisition and installation of equipment and fixtures for any and all facilities authorized to be constructed, erected, altered, reconstructed, renovated, installed, or improved by the provisions hereof, the payment of any and all costs and expenses incurred for or in connection with doing any and or all of the things herein mentioned, including but not limited to the costs and expenses of securing administrative, appraisal, economic analysis, engineering, planning, designing, architectural, surveying, and other professional services, and for doing any and all things necessary, proper, or expedient in connection with or pertaining to any and all of the matters or things herein before mentioned, authorizing the issuance of refunding bonds, conferring and imposing upon the Board of Finance of Baltimore City certain powers and duties, authorizing the submission of this ordinance to the legal voters of the City of Baltimore for their approval or disapproval at the general election to be held in Baltimore City on Tuesday, the 3rd of November, 2020, and providing for the expenditure of the proceeds of sale of said certificates of indebtedness in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore and by the municipal agency designated in the annual ordinance of estimates of the Mayor and City Council of Baltimore. Sponsor, City Council President, on behalf of the administration, Middleton.
Great
Thank you.
job. Great job, sir. This has been assigned to the Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee.
At least you got to do it sitting down. Saints.
Thank you, Councilman. City Council Bill 20-0518, RPP Area 2, Morgan Plan Amendment. For the purpose of adding the 1,500 and 1,600 blocks of Argonne Drive, Oddside, Parking Management Plan for RPP Area 2 and correcting related language. Sponsor Clark.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, members of the City Council. Thanks to the help of my 3rd District colleague on this, because Argonne Drive is where our two districts meet. We finally have an ordinance to provide residential permit parking on the 1,500 and 1,600 blocks of Argonne Drive across from the Northwood Shopping Center. With that shopping center into demolition and redevelopment and great crowds of people going to come and shop and enjoy, we need to make sure the immediate neighbors have a place to park in front of their houses. These 2 blocks are right across the street from Morgan's buildings and also from the new shopping center that's rising from the ground. And so thanks to my colleague and thanks to you all, I hope we have a hearing and get this thing done so we can get permit parking and an extension of existing Area 2. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been assigned to the Land Use Committee.
I don't think so.
Transportation.
Oh, sorry. You're right. That's my fault.
No,
This
it's
is assigned to the Transportation Committee.
That's great. Thank you.
City Council Bill 20-0519, Children and Youth Fund Establishment or Permanent Fiscal Agent. For the purpose of designating a permanent fiscal agent to administer the Children and Youth Fund, establishing that the fiscal agent be governed and administered by a board of directors, requiring that the board of directors adopt bylaws that detail the governance of the fiscal agent, requiring that the board of directors submit an annual proposed financial plan to the Board of Estimates, providing that the City Council hold annual public hearings into the activities of the fiscal agent, allowing for the City Council to refer a petition to dissolve the Board of Directors in certain situations to the Board of Estimates, including the fiscal agent and its Board of Directors within the coverage of the City Code of Ethics, defining certain terms generally relating to the administration and governance of the Children and Youth Fund and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors: Kaline, President Scott, Henry, Middleton, Stokes, Burnett, Costello.
Please add Councilwoman Snead, Councilman Scheifler, Councilman Bullock, co-sponsors, Councilman Dorsey as a co-sponsor. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill codifies the next step in the Children and Youth Fund. The legislation moves funding out of the Associated Black Charities and creates the framework for the permanent intermediary. It authorizes a board of Baltimore's community members to determine how dollars are spent on our youth. The Youth Fund has had challenges, but it is an incredibly important value statement for our city. And now more than ever, we need to honor not just the spirit of the Children and Youth Fund, but the hard work that has gone into it. The idea that we can center racial equity and community participation in the work of grant making is critical to how our city moves forward. I want to thank Mayor Young and his administration for their commitment to our children. And I want to thank the many, many, many community members that have worked and fought so hard to make this fund a reality. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, can I be a co-sponsor?
Yeah, please add Councilman Pinkett as a co-sponsor. Sorry, I missed you, Councilman. This has been assigned to the Education and Youth Committee.
City Council Bill 20-0520, false statements, states of emergency. For the purpose of prohibiting a person from making certain false statements declared during a declared state of emergency, defining certain terms, conforming and correcting related provisions, and providing for a special effective date. Sponsors: President Scott, Henry, Middleton, Clark, Costello, Stokes.
Please add Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Dorsey, Councilman Scheifler as co-sponsors. Thank you all. We all know that right now we're going, Councilman Bullock as a co-sponsor. We all know that we're going through a very, very tenuous situation with the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. but we also know that many times in crises like these, people try to prey on our most vulnerable and just the vulnerable nature of our citizenry. What this bill will do is make sure that those individuals who try to do that, we have been warned by the Attorney General, both at the federal level and here at the state level, even our own Department of Public Works, DGE, about potential scams that folks are running around COVID-19, from anything from your water to a ventilator to vaccines, anything around COVID-19. What this does is recognize that this is a very serious situation, and that we cannot allow our citizenry to be preyed upon, especially when you're thinking about how many of them are already out of work, how many of them are struggling to think about where the next meal is going to come from, how they're going to go back to work, how they're going to provide for their family. We cannot stand by and allow people to prey on them. And what this does is lift that up and make sure that we're holding those individuals accountable. So thank you to all my co-sponsors. I look forward to a great hearing in the Judiciary Committee. And please add Councilwoman Snead as a co-sponsor as well. This has been assigned to the Judiciary Committee. Resolutions to be introduced.
City Council Resolution 20-0209R, inmate release due to COVID-19. For the purpose of supporting the American Civil Liberties Union's recommendation that the state release certain inmates from jail and prison due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sponsors: President Scott, Stokes, Henry, Middleton, Burnett, Clark.
Please add Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Dorsey, Councilwoman Snead, Councilman Cohen as co-sponsors. Thank you. Thank you to all of my co-sponsors. We know this resolution simply supports the ACLU of Maryland's recommendations to have low-risk, nonviolent offenders be released from jail due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that Maryland is an emerging hotspot. We know that places in Baltimore, 21215, where I grew up, is a hotspot in our state. And as of last Wednesday, we know that there were 57 confirmed cases of COVID-19 within the prison system. We know that close quarters in prisons and jail make it difficult, if not impossible, to adhere to the social distancing guidelines. And what we are asking the governor to do is do what has been done in places across the country, but also to reduce the prison population by releasing any inmate whose sentence is scheduled to end in the next year, who is being held on a technical supervision violation, and who is particularly vulnerable to COVID-19, including people 65 years of age and older, and people with underlying health conditions, as long as they meet the qualifications that we laid out earlier about being nonviolent, low-risk offenders. This is something simple that will protect our great frontline public safety workers who are working in these prisons and these facilities, putting themselves at risk, and also adhering to what I call the best human nature, and allowing folks to be released when we know that they are not a risk to our society, while trying to focus on public safety as well. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules to permit immediate adoption.
Without objections, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray,
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey,
Yes.
Councilman Henry,
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer,
Yes.
Vice President Middleton,
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett.
Vote.
Yes, sir.
This is absolutely the right thing to do, and thank you for your leadership, Council President. My caution and my hope is that an overwhelming percentage of the individuals who will be released are released into 4 zip codes in our city. When you talk about 21213, 15, 16, 17, and if we don't have the proper resources in place, housing, financial assistance, healthcare, we are sending those individuals right into the areas where we know there will be spikes, where there will be hot spots as it relates to COVID-19. So if we do this right, and it doesn't mean that we can't just solely depend on the state to do what's right. It means that the city also has to provide the resources for our returning citizens so that we're not sending them into harm's way. So yes.
Councilman Burnett,
Aye.
Councilman Bullock,
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger.
Kaline, we're gonna have to see if Councilman Reiniger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Councilman Costello.
Mr. President, just wanted to explain my vote and wanted to second everything that my colleague Councilman Pinkett said, especially with respect to 21217. Yes.
Councilman Stokes.
I agree with my two colleagues. We gotta have some resources when they are released, because that's what the councilman said. They're gonna go back to the same atmosphere they came from. So let's look at resources that we can have ready for these young men or women that's gonna be released. And my answer is yes.
Councilwoman Sneed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
I would like to just add, it's not just young men and women. I got people in there that have been there for years and years that are due parole right now. So I hope we consider them as well. And on my vote is yes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0210R, Emergency Response to COVID-19, Immediate Housing for Persons Who Are Homeless. For the purpose of calling on the mayor, the Board of Estimates, and all affected agencies to immediately make available sufficient hotel rooms and other non-congregate housing to provide homes for all interested persons currently residing in congregate spaces within homeless shelters and all other homeless persons in Baltimore City. Sponsors, President Scott, Clark, Henry, Middleton, Burnett, Bullock.
Thank you. Thank you. Please add Councilman Pinkett, Councilman Stokes as co-sponsors, Councilman Cohen as co-sponsors, Councilman Dorsey as a co-sponsor, and Councilwoman Sneed as a co-sponsor. We all know that we are in a very, very drastic and unique situation, and we need to be willing to understand how deep the impact and be willing to try new solutions. This is a situation that we've never had before, and we all know that drastic times calls for drastic measures. As we have since the beginning of this year, the council will continue to lead in this time, and some see this proposal and say, as it feasible? I simply just say, we know this won't happen overnight. We know this is something that we're going to have to work together to make this happen, but we know that right now we have to do everything in our power to make sure everyone that the city can make safe of COVID-19 be that way. And that's why we're moving forward this item. I also want to note that since the resolution was drafted, there is some data point that I want to update. There have been 150 healthy homeless individuals placed into hotels, 50 homeless in hotels with symptoms. I wanted to make sure that we uplift that and uplift the great work that has been done before, and just want to push even further for us to continue to go further to make sure that we are looking out for our most vulnerable citizens. And we know the homeless are very, very vulnerable and can contract COVID-19 because of the conditions, unacceptable conditions in which they live. Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. Given the urgent and immediate nature of this situation, I'd like to suspend the appropriate rules and move for immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott.
Aye.
Councilman Cohen.
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray.
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey.
Yes.
Councilman Henry.
Mr. President, I'd like to explain my vote. I am voting yes, but I would like to take this opportunity to remind not just our colleagues, but everyone at home. We were told today during a briefing at our lunchtime meeting that we are looking at a substantial deficit due to the economic downside of this crisis. And we were also told that we have already received $100 million plus from the state and the feds towards the COVID-19 pandemic that cannot be used to close that deficit. It can only be used for things that we had not already budgeted to do, which would be housing homeless that are specifically impacted by this pandemic, as this resolution calls for, and helping to find safe places to house and support the people who would be coming home, the inmates that we are urging the governor to release in the previous resolution, and also in the one coming up. All of these are not unfunded requests that we're sending to the mayor and to the governor. There is money to do this. We have to use it. We have to use it to help our people. I vote yes.
Councilman Schleifer,
Yes.
Vice President Middleton,
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett,
Yes.
Councilman Burnett,
Yes.
Councilman Bullock,
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
Yes, and I'd like to say that I have had so many people emailing me today about this resolution. So thank you, Mr. President, for introducing it and drafting it, for giving us a way to express the way we feel and the way we think. Thank you to my colleague in the fourth, how our money should be spent that is coming to take care of problems we have because of this virus. Thank you. Yes.
The motion is approved. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0211R, closing the digital divide during the COVID-19 crisis for the purpose of calling on the Baltimore City government, the state of Maryland, and the Baltimore City public school system to work together to make sure every student has access to technology to support online learning during the COVID-19 crisis and to support the short and long-term employment needs of participants in Baltimore's Youth Works program. Sponsors: Cohen, President Scott, Henry, Middleton, Burnett, Bullock, Pinkett, McCray, Clark.
Thank you. Please add Councilwoman Sneed as a co-sponsor to this legislation, Councilman Stokes as a co-sponsor, any other Councilman Dorsey as a co-sponsor, any other co-sponsors to this legislation. I want to thank Councilman Cohen for taking up this. We know last week I lifted this up in the COVID-19 policy document about how we should use city funds to help break down the digital divide. Actually, I said we should focus in on thinking about even the Children and Youth Fund to focus on the digital divide in Baltimore, because we know our young people are learning at home now, and they might be doing that at the beginning of the school year. So thank you very much, Councilman, for your leadership on this issue. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your partnership and leadership on this issue as well. This resolution calls for the city of Baltimore to help close the digital divide during the COVID-19 crisis. We believe that every child in Baltimore should have access to the technology they need to learn and achieve and compete in the 21st century economy. We've heard from students, parents, teachers, and community across our city that not enough children have laptops, tablets, or even access to the internet. And we've heard from State Education Secretary Karen Selman that school may be out well into next year. And right now, if you can't get online, you can't get your constitutionally guaranteed education. And we know that this inequity hits our most disadvantaged families the hardest. The digital divide is sadly not a new issue for Baltimore. The 2013 survey by the U.S. Census Bureau ranked Baltimore 261st out of 269 cities. According to the census, approximately 30% of households in Baltimore have no internet access. The school system recently conducted a survey where they've connected with about 23,500 parents through a robocall or an email. But we know that those results skew heavily toward parents that have access to technology. The school system is attempting to secure many Chromebooks in the range of 27,000, but now is the time for us to stand with our students and work with our schools to close the digital divide. We need to make sure our children can learn, achieve, and compete in the 21st century economy, not just during this crisis, but moving forward. Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules for immediate adoption.
All right. Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott,
Aye.
Councilman Cohen,
Aye.
Councilwoman McCray,
Yes.
Councilman Dorsey,
Yes.
Councilman Henry,
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer,
Yes.
Vice President Middleton,
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett,
Yes.
Councilman Burnett,
Yes.
Councilman Bullock,
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed, Councilwoman Clark.
Yes.
All right. The motion is approved. The ayes have it. This resolution has been adopted.
City Council Resolution 20-0212R, COVID-19 Essential Business and Resident Activity Regulations for the purpose of calling on the mayor to require all businesses deemed essential in Baltimore City immediately implement social distance measures for customers and to require all residents wear masks while participating in permitted activities. Sponsors, President Scott, Henry, Middleton, Burnett, Bullock.
Please add Councilwoman Snead, Councilman Schleifer, and Cohen, Stokes, Councilman Dorsey, Councilman Pinkett as sponsors. That's Snead, Schleifer, Cohen, Dorsey, Stokes, Pinkett. Thank you. Thank you all for your co-sponsorship. We know that many Baltimoreans are still being put at risk of contracting COVID-19 while conducting essential duties as a result of individuals not practicing social distance. Whether that be a worker or a consumer, it is our duty to protect those employees and our citizens who are risking their lives to provide us with the services we need and our residents so that they can obtain the things that they need to survive. I introduced this resolution to call on the mayor to require all businesses that are deemed essential to officially institute social distancing measures in their stores and establishments across the city, following the lead of our great supermarkets who have done that. But when you think about the city of Baltimore, you think about in 21215, again, where we have an enormous amount of cases where individuals are getting food from corner stores and even liquor stores in some cases where it's very, very hard to practice social distancing. We have to protect those individuals as well, and also making sure that the citizens, we are protecting them in their personal behavior. And so also we're asking, like some other cities have put forth already, requiring citizens that to wear masks or some facial covering when they're out conducting those essential activities that they have to have. We have to do everything that we possibly can do to protect ourselves and our citizens throughout this crisis. We have had great partnerships with our businesses. We've seen the great work that they do. We know that our citizens are practicing social distancing, many of them, but there are still far too many people not taking this seriously. There are still too many businesses that are not implementing social distancing practices, and we are putting the lives of our citizens, the lives of those individuals who work in our supermarkets, who are doing the work that is allowing us to have some sense of normalcy at risk. That's the sole reason for this piece of legislation, this resolution, is to protect the citizens of Baltimore and show that we believe this could happen. And we know some of these things are uncomfortable. We know, like the decision to remove playground equipment and basketball rims has caused backlash for many, if not all, the elected officials in the city, but it's the right thing to do. We'll make sure that those things go back to normal when we can do that in a safe way, but this is the right thing to do right now. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Henry. Sorry about that.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules to permit immediate adoption.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Roll call.
President Scott,
Aye.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Councilwoman McCray,
Yes.
Councilman,
Yes.
Councilman Henry,
Yes.
Councilman Schleifer, Vice President Middleton,
Yes.
Councilman Pinkett,
Yeah.
Councilman Burnett,
Yes.
Councilman Bullock,
Yes.
Councilman Reisinger,
Yes.
Councilman Costello,
Yes.
Councilman Stokes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sneed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Clark.
I'm going to vote yes, but I'd like to say a word about what this resolution says, which is obey the rules of protecting each other. I have a couple of row house renovations going on in my district in which neighbors in row house neighborhoods are up against fixing long vacant houses, and the people coming in and out, the confusion, the crowds of construction workers. These are not big projects. This is 2 row house renovations and rehabs. The least we can do. Construction is an essential activity, but that doesn't mean that neighbors have to be worried about being infected by people coming and going from other states to do this work, and the trash and debris that any site like that generates, especially when it's a row house. So I vote yes, and I hope that counts for my constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all. The motion is approved. The ayes have it. This resolution has been adopted. A third reading for final passage.
City Council Bill 19-0441, Charter Amendment, Charter Review Commission.
Chair recognizes, Mr. Clerk, you have to read the entire bill.
Yes, sir. For the purpose of requiring its Charter Review Commission be appointed at least once every 10 years to review and make recommendations for necessary deletions, additions, or revisions to the city charter, providing for the term of the commission, setting forth the manner of the commission's appointment, providing for the commission's duties, requiring that the commission be dissolved on the completion of its duties, and submitting this amendment to the qualified voters of the city for adoption or rejection.
Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to, at this time, move to recommit 19-0441 to committee so that we can consider additional amendments.
All those in favor of recommitting 19-0441 back to committee, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion is approved. The bill will be recommitted. Committee announcement. Without objection, we will suspend the following council rule read by the clerk until the mayor lifts the state of emergency order. We should suspend rule. We should suspend rule 10-1A2 requiring fastening of agency reports to Blueback.
Rule 10-1, required agency report. A, president to keep the record. Section 2, the original of each communication must be fastened in the blue backing for the applicable bill.
And 10-1011A1, allowing committee chair to sign bills, bluebacks to report a bill at a council meeting.
Rule 10-11, committee reports, Hopper Rule. A, in general, to report a bill at a council meeting, the committee chair must, 1, sign the bill's blueback.
Thank you. With no objection, those council rules will be suspended until the mayor lifts the state of emergency order. Members, when you hear your committee, please proceed with your committee announcements. Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold a hearing on Thursday, April 23rd at 1:30 p.m. This will be a virtual hearing over WebEx for Council Bill 20-0519, Children and Youth Fund. Pardon me, Mr. President. I'd like to start over. Mr. President, I'd like to suspend Rules 10-2 and 10-3 to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Councilman, actually, this legislation, the Children and Youth Fund legislation, is assigned to education.
Are you sure, Mr. President?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I'm positive. Yep. I'm positive.
Okay. I spoke with your chief of staff at 4 p.m. and told him I was scheduling the hearing for it. Okay.
Yeah, it's assigned to education and
Okay.
youth. We read it into the record as education and youth tonight.
Okay. Budget and Appropriations Committee will hold hearing on Thursday, April 23rd, 2 p.m. This will be a virtual hearing over WebEx on Legislative Oversight 19-0060, Budget Oversight Hearing for BPD.
Thank you. Equity and Structure Committee, Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. On April 21st at 11 a.m., the committee will have a virtual work session on 3 charter amendments: 19-0381, removal of elected officials; 20-491, city auditor powers and duties; and 19-441, charter review commission. And on April 23rd at 11 a.m., the committee will have a virtual committee hearing for City Council Bill 20-0492, City Council reduction in size, 20-0504, City Council composition, and 19-382, City Administrator. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Council,
Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey, point of order.
could Councilman Henry please repeat that date and time?
I have,
Recognizes Councilman Henry.
yeah, I have that as Thursday, April 23rd at 11 a.m. Are you not available? Because I had asked that you and
Should be fine.
Scott be confirmed for that hearing date.
Should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Education and Youth Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the necessary rules to announce the hearing for bill number 20-0519.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Cohen.
The Education and Youth Committee will hear bill number 20-0519, Children and Youth Fund, on Tuesday, April 21st at 5 p.m. on WebEx. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Executive Appointments Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Stowe.
Committee will hold a virtual hearing on Wednesday, April the 22nd, 2020 at 10 a.m. to review the following nomination. Eric Stevenson, member of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Health Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to suspend the necessary rules to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Health Committee will reconvene the hearing for Council Resolution 20-0194R, informational hearing, Baltimore's strategic response to the COVID-19, on Tuesday, April 28th, 2020, beginning at 6:30. This will be a virtual WebEx meeting, aired live on Trump TV.
Thank you. Housing and Urban Affairs Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. President. No updates at this point.
Thank you. Labor Committee, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Snead.
No updates at this point.
Thank you. Legislative Investigations Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to suspend the rules to announce a hearing.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Legislative Investigations Committee will have a legislative oversight hearing on Thursday, April 23rd, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. It will be an oversight hearing with the Board of Elections on the upcoming 2020 primary and general elections.
Thank you. Sorry, I skipped one. Judiciary Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing on Tuesday, April 21st at 10 a.m. This will be a virtual hearing over WebEx on Council Bill 20-0505, Building, Fire, and Related Codes 2020 edition. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Land Use Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Reisinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Land Use Committee will hold a hearing on Wednesday, May the 6th at 1 p.m. on Bill number 20-0482. This is inclusionary housing requirements, sunset extension. This will be a WebEx virtual meeting. The committee will also hold a hearing on Wednesday, May the 20th at 1 p.m. on Bill 20-0506. This is in regards to Baltimore City Critical Area Management Program, which is the manual, the maps, and the zoning. And Mr. President and my colleagues, as a reminder, and that will be also a WebEx virtual meeting. But again, Mr. President and my colleagues, for a reminder that Wednesday, April 22nd at 1 p.m., the Land Use will have a hearing on Bill 19-0449, and that's zoning for neighborhood commercial establishments. And this also will be conducted as a WebEx virtual meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Schleifer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Safety Committee will hold a hearing on Bill number 19-0059 on April 23rd, 2020 at 2:01 p.m. on WebEx, and that is for the monthly crime stats for the police department.
Thank you. Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee, Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Taxation, Finance, and Economic Development Committee will have a virtual WebEx hearing on Bill number 20-0205R, Thursday, April 30th, 2020 at 11 a.m. And it's an informational hearing on implementing the Water Accountability and Equity Act.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice President. Transportation Committee, Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask a question? I was told by your staff that they wanted hearings scheduled only during certain hours, but I believe that there are a bunch of hearings that are being scheduled outside of those certain hours. If they were mistaken, then I'd like to announce a hearing for the I'd like to suspend the necessary rules to announce a hearing for Councilwoman Clark's bill that was just introduced tonight on residential parking permits for April 22nd.
Mr. President, that'll be bill number 20-0518.
Without objection, the rules will be suspended. The rules are suspended. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to hold a hearing at the regularly scheduled time of 1 p.m. on Wednesday, April 22nd for bill number 20-0518.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other further announcement? Thank you. Regular announcements. Please note that the following dates for council meetings have changed. The May 4th meeting will now be on April the 27th. The May 11th meeting will now be May the 18th. The June 1st meeting will now be June the 8th. Also, I would like to wish Councilman Robert Stokes a happy belated birthday. We missed him. I missed him last week when we canceled the first meeting due to COVID-19. Please also join me in wishing Councilman Schleifer a happy birthday as well. It's upcoming on April the 17th. So happy birthday to both. Chair recognizes Councilman Dorsey.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I believe I misspoke. I think I said 1 p.m. on the 22nd. I meant 3 p.m.
You did. So we have to start over again, Mr. Dorsey.
I move to announce a hearing on Wednesday, April 22nd at 3 p.m. of the Transportation Committee on Bill 20-0518.
Without objection, the hearing rules will be suspended. The hearing will be scheduled and announced. The hearing
Thank you,
is.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Regular announcements. Anybody else? Regular announcements. Councilman Henry, will come to you right in 1 second. I would also like to ask the Council Vice President Middle to honor a moment of silence for the now 81 victims of homicide in the city of Baltimore. All those that we've lost to opioid and overdose epidemic here in Baltimore and COVID-19 as well. Chair recognizes Councilman Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask the Vice President if we could do a moment of silence for Pete Packus. Pete Packus as a longtime do-gooder, and I can't think of a better term to use. He worked for the city and DPW multiple times. In between tours of duty with the city, he worked for nonprofits as a community organizer, notably with CPHA. Pete spent more than 40 years on the board of NECO, again, often as president. He was the biggest advocate I ever met for telling people that they needed to keep their porch lights on. And he would do anything that needed to be done to make Northeast Baltimore a safer, better place to live. And he will be greatly missed. And I would ask that we have a moment of silence.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilman Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask Madam Vice President Middleton to add a moment of silence for Marty Howe. He was the longtime Southwest District Community Relations Council president. He passed away today. So I just wanted to extend a moment of silence to him.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Stokes.
Just passed away a couple of days. Mrs. Jackson Harpoon. So I'd like to give a moment of silence for Mrs. Jackson Harpoon also. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other regular?
Yes.
Councilwoman.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Clark.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. I have already asked our vice president for a moment of silence for two people. Let me first mention Coleman Tutt. And I don't know if you knew him, but if you didn't, then you missed good plumbing. But not only was he the best plumber imaginable and one of the best in Baltimore, but he was also very affordable for a lot of senior citizens who didn't quite have enough money to get the plumbing done at all. And he has passed. People called him King Tut, and he deserved that title, and they loved him, and he took good care of a lot of people with his skills. On a very personal note, this morning, Timothy Edward Clark Sr. Passed away. He is my husband, Joe's younger brother. It was a surprise and a shock and totally unexpected. He really died in his sleep early in the morning, and they couldn't resuscitate him when they got him to the hospital. So he was a great guy, a loving husband, 2 sons, 4 grandchildren, and he wasn't born in Baltimore, but he spent a lot of his years here. Great graduate of College Park. And I hope that you all will remember him and all of our family in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. And our prayers are with you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Snead.
Thank you, Council President. If the Vice President, this is not unusual at this time, but just pray for our frontline responders, like our nurses and our MTA drivers and our postal workers. I recently had a conversation and they were talking about not being able to touch their families and not being able to hold and kiss them. So I just want to acknowledge and ask that you pray for our first responders who can't even have that intimate touch with their families right now. So my sister, a pharmacist as well, and so I'm thinking about her and her family.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Vice President, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Shiante Jackson Harpool. She's married to someone that many of us know and consider a friend, Adrian Harpool. She was a young lady and tragically passed away due to complications from coronavirus. I'd also like to ask for a moment of silence for Velma Mosley, better known as Nana, who lived in Upton and had essentially been a godmother to over 30 students at Fermanagh Templeton Preparatory Academy. And lastly, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Al Kaline. Al Kaline is arguably the greatest baseball player to come out of Baltimore City. He was an 18-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove winner, is a Hall of Famer, and was absolutely the consummate gentleman. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. And Council Vice President Middleton, I also would ask that you honor a moment of silence for Brandon Powell. Brandon Powell, who was actually a teammate and a classmate of mine at Merville High School, who passed away last week as well. Any other regular announcements? Councilman Cohen, Councilman Pinkett, Councilwoman McCray. Seeing or hearing none, Chair recognizes Council Vice President Middleton.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as we do these moment of silences, please try to email them to me early because I think I have about 12 or more names I have to announce. So, and it's, it just makes it much easier. And the next meeting of the City Council will be held on Monday, April 27th at 5 p.m. Here on virtual WebEx for the time being. And as we continue to stay at home and practice social distancing, may we have a moment of silence for the 81 victims of homicide, the opioid epidemic, and the COVID-19 pandemic, and the frontline and first responders continue to keep in our prayers. And may we have a moment of silence for Timothy E. Clark Sr., Coleman Tutt, Pete Packus, Marty Howe, Jackson Harpool, Brian Powell, and Velma Mosley, and I think there was one more, Al Bailey.
Al
Kaline. And that's it.
Thank you. There being no further business, this concludes the 81st meeting of the 72nd term of the Baltimore City Council.